Hi, and welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric, Executive Director of WCTV. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of In Focus as we actually it is one of my favorite times of year when we get to talk about 4-H. I love the fair. I love 4-H. And since it's wintertime, and if you've listened to me for a while, you know I'm not a big winter person. Let's talk summer and 4-H. I've got Alicia, Criswell, and Sandy House with us, dealing with 4-H and dealing with the 4-H fair, the two things that are a whole lot of fun. Ladies, thank you very much for being here. I've never had you here together. I've had a chance to talk to you all at various times. I've talked to this time of year in the past. You're normally just a summer activity.
That's how it ranks.
You're year-round now, Sandy.
But getting to that summer activity is what we want to talk about a little bit. So let's start with the kids portion of this. Right around this time, you all are ramping up and getting kids involved and getting them sign up. Talk about how that's coming along this year and what deadlines people need to know about or that we've already missed.
Absolutely. Haven't missed any yet.
Okay.
That's a good thing. So we are in the thick of our enrollment period. So Indiana 4-H enrolls October 1st through January 15th annually. So we will be enrolling kiddos in the Wayne County 4-H program, as are 91 other counties across the state, through January the 15th. And this is the preferred time to get involved because starting then into January, early February, things really kick off as far as club meetings, workshops, different project-related activities. And so we really like to get kids in at the beginning so that they're not missing things then on the back end.
For those people who, and we know people move in, people move out. Some people come from areas where 4-H really isn't a big thing. Talk a little bit about what 4-H is and what kids can become involved.
So 4-H is the largest youth organization in the country. I always like to plug that. Most people don't realize that.
I didn't realize that for a number of years.
Yeah, it's also the only federally funded youth program in the country.
Wow.
So yeah, we're really lucky and really supported well, through different channels and different avenues. But 4-H is for everyone, and I think there's still those old adages of what is it, sows, cows, and plows.
Okay.
And we have moved so far past that, in the last, even 20 years. We've really grown and expanded. And really, over the last 10 years that I've been involved, really narrowed things down, even more to help youth who are outside of sort of that ag spectrum really get involved in our program. So we still absolutely value, our youth who are ingrained and generationally in agriculture, but we welcome youth with any background and in any interest.
Talk about the age ranges where kids can start. There's mini 4-H, and then they move into where you're counting the years, because I don't think the mini 4-H counts in that 10-year area, does it?
You're right. It doesn't officially count. So kindergarten, first, and second graders are our mini 4-Hers, and that's sort of an exploratory program. So they can still participate in projects. They can still take part in activities like project workshops and events and things like that, but they're non-competitive. So their projects are exhibited at the fair. They receive a ribbon and recognition, but they're not competitive at that level. So the official 4-H tenure in Indiana starts in 3rd grade and runs through 12th grade. So if a youth participates 3rd through 12th grade, they are considered a 10-year 4-H member, and that is a big, important designation for our youth.
As you look at what has changed a little bit, and you've talked about it, and in our conversations over the last few years, I've seen some of it. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen and you've tried to implement in particular to help bring more kids into 4-H?
Yeah, definitely STEM-based programming, that science, technology, engineering, and math area of projects that we offer and the different activities that go along with those projects. Things like our motorsports program, our circuitry endeavors with schools and the Boys and Girls Club and different organizations across the county. That's really expanded a lot in the last 5 years. Our healthy living initiatives have expanded a lot too. We're doing a lot with mindfulness and social emotional learning. So mental health stigmas and awareness. We're doing a lot more of that type of programming with youth.
As you think about where the kids can gather, come from, and you've mentioned there's been a lot of outreach. Talk about what that outreach has looked like in Wayne County, and how kids are able to connect to and with 4-H programs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a really a pretty good social media presence, and we use our social media a lot as far as just being connected with the community and making sure that people are aware of some of the different things that we're doing. But I would say the different youth organizations in Wayne County, we are really friendly. We're really well connected, and I've learned over the years that that is not necessarily the case in all counties, which is kind of surprising.
Okay.
But we work so well with the Boys and Girls Club and Girls Inc., Future Achievers. Like we're all in this together. And so we all kind of share and connect different programming efforts and different things that we've got going on, different enrollment periods. So really kind of through those initiatives, we also have amazing community partners like yourself, Eric, and several businesses and organizations across the county that are just great cheerleaders for 4-H.
We're going to come back and talk about the difference between the walking and non-walking projects and get into some of that. But it all culminates at the fair. That's where, for a lot of kids who start the work now, that's where their projects end up. People don't get to see always that piece of it or what's going on with the fair this time of year. When you sat down, I said, so have you wrapped up 2024 and are you working on 2025? Some people would think it might be a little early, but how early do you actually, Sandy, and your committees begin working on the fair?
Generally the week of fair, we are putting on the next year. So about a year out.
Wow.
We're always working on what are we bringing back the next meeting after the fair. We're always discussing what worked, what didn't work, where could maybe we find something this or that. And yeah, so it's at least a year out that you start planning.
As you look at what has worked, what hasn't worked, how do you all define that? Is it just by attendance at certain things? Are you surveying people that are coming out to the fair? How do you decide what things have been positive?
Of course, we have the social media, and so people on Facebook and those places will let you know what maybe they liked or didn't like, and we usually ask that question out there too, and try to talk to people. What is it you'd like to see, and then a lot of it may be out of the money spectrum that you can't afford that, but we go looking for it, and our sponsorship has been great, and we just continue to grow, I think, with the quality of entertainment that we're able to bring and the amount of entertainment that we're bringing as it just continues to grow.
Talk a little bit about that, because I don't think people understand the cost of even regional acts for a night. Talk about how the fair makes its money, how you all decide how much to spend on the next year, how much you need to hold back, and what you all do in terms of being able to improve your facilities. I know that that's owned by Wayne County, but you all, I assume, have some input into how things run out there just a little bit.
We do give back to if there's needs for pens or scholarships or the different things. There'll be something comes up in a meeting and we'll be like, hey, we can help on that. But the money, as far as the cost, yes, it's a very costly thing. There's insurances, but we all are volunteers. If we honestly had to pay for everybody that was there working and the hours they put in, our security, the sheriff's department, the EMTs, very minimal cost. Manure disposal is another thing that people don't think about.
Sure.
But a lot of the big counties, that cost is way up there, where we have a local companies that work with us, and so we always kind of joke and say, as long as we have enough money to put on the next year's fair, we're good. And so we make sure we do have a rainy day fund, because we've been blessed with weather for the last couple of years. We all know that there's going to be a time that we may have 3 or 4 days that the carnival doesn't run. Right. And some people say, well, why the carnival? Why is that so important? They give us a percentage, and that money really pays for a lot of the things at the fairgrounds. We're able to keep the camping very reasonable for the 4-H kids to come out and camp, and that electricity and the water and the porta pots and like I said, the EMT sitting there, all those things come at somewhat of a cost, and we've got the money to continue to do that. So, and we may need new bleachers or something, and we'll kick in. The county has been very good to help, and it's really starting to show out there. If you haven't been to the fairgrounds, it's really looking awesome, and I think you're going to see it continue to look better all the time.
Alicia's talking about 4-H, you're talking about the fair. They work hand in hand to a certain extent, but there are those separations of things. Talk about your committee, how that's put together, how you all divide up duties, and do you need more people?
We can always use people. There's about 20 of us that are the core committee, and it is all volunteer. We've just been together for a very long time, and there's several of us that have, well, that's kind of my forte, or I've been doing that, or I can do that, and so that's, everybody just kind of has their own area that we kind of separate. We meet as a meeting and at a meeting, and we just go around the room, and it's like, what do you got to bring to the table? What do you need? And somebody will usually go, well, I got that. I can do that. Or, you know, so, and there'll be a lot of things at the fair that we've worked together so long that I'll think, oh, I need to go do that. And I'll go, and it's like, it's done. You know, it's like, it's just done. So it's, but we've got, even from picking up trash, there's a couple people that they don't realize. They come out every morning and they wipe those tables down and they go around. And one guy's in his 80s. And he's dragging those trash cans back, you know. So it's just one of those. And the cool thing about that is, like, maybe it's not the 4-H kids per se, but like he has grandkids, and he has his different grandkids come with him every summer, and he has them work with him. And I just think that's so cool that, you know, he's showing them what you should do for your community. And the reason we do it is for the 4-H kids. I mean, that's what the fair is for, really. I mean, it's a community thing, but we do it because of them.
You said that you start basically about a year ahead of time. What are the things that you have to map out and know that a year out, we have to have this. 6 months out, we have to have this. If we don't have this 3 months out, we're in big trouble. I assume food vendors, that type of thing. And how often do you try to rotate who's in? I know there are some people that are incredibly popular, because I was out there and there was a line running from one particular vendor that it just snaked. I thought about getting in the line, but I went, nah. So how do you decide what works, what doesn't, and who you want to invite back and who you don't?
Basically, all of our vendors are normally return if they want to. I can't really honestly think of any that we've had trouble with that we said, not coming back, which we could make that decision. But that's one thing that's very nice is, you know, next year we're pretty full on the food vendors. There might be somebody, because of circumstances, aren't in business any longer, or we've had one that had health issues and they couldn't get help. Well, so they set out a year, and luckily, I mean, they'd been part of the fair forever, so they're actually going to be back, you know, they've sold it to family and they're coming back. So, yeah, the food vendors is an easy one. The other ones are always the ones that rotate, and that they're more of a closer to fair, maybe 2 months out that we'd like to get it. But honestly, even Fair Week, if there's a spot that we can bring some money in for the fair and we can fill that spot, we'll do it. But we try to get it all lined up, because it's a pretty big puzzle to put together. And so as far as entertainment, we usually finish up in January. We go to a convention, and we usually try to save a spot. For 2024, I think we're already picking somebody up from the year before's convention that we liked and just couldn't fit them in. So sometimes we might see somebody and then a year later be able to get them. But the schedule, we really have to have it, because it takes a while to proof it and get it to print and get it out there. Fortunately, the 4-H side is a lot of times the same dates, you know, as far as animal shows, and that's kind of nice. So a lot of things we can just plug in.
As we talk about what kids can get involved in with 4-H, talk a little bit about, break that down. Is everything available to the first, second, third graders as are available to the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th graders? Or are there things that the minis do that the older kids don't do, or vice versa?
So we have some project categories that are specific to the mini 4-Hers, and then we have just a handful of projects that mostly for insurance reasons are specific to our regular 4-Hers, those 3rd through 12th graders. We do try to break everything down. You know, if it's an arts and crafts project even, you know, we try to have a category for, usually it's broken down by 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and then 6th through 8th grade, and then 9th through 12th grade, just so it's a little bit more age appropriate, and you get the product out of the youth that they're capable of producing, you know, and kind of pushing them a little bit to do their best work. So shooting sports comes to mind, our shooting sports program, archery, pistol, rifle, shotgun, muzzleloader, and outdoor experiences now, which is awesome.
I didn't realize that it had
Yes,
expanded to
we've grown that
that.
program. Yes, we have some amazing volunteers that have done a really great job with that program. So we offer all of those disciplines now. That is specific to that 3rd through 12th grade population. So our mini 4-Hers can't participate in that. Whereas like our mini 4-Hers have projects like dinosaurs and whales and, you know, things like that, that our older kids say, yeah, that's nice, but no thanks, kind of a thing. So yeah, there's truly something for everybody.
The outreach that you're doing, and you've mentioned some of the clubs, you've mentioned Future Achievers, you've mentioned Boys and Girls Club. Are they, and we hear about clubs, Horse and Pony Club, things of that nature. Are there clubs that are specific to individual groups and organizations, or do they meet in different places? Talk about how that works and how somebody connects with a particular club, organization, group, area.
Yeah. So we've got 36 clubs in the county. Some of them are project specific. So like I just mentioned, shooting sports. In order to be in one of the shooting sports disciplines, you're a member of the Sharpshooters 4-H club. And there's some reasons for that. They do some safety meetings where all of the members are involved. They do a lot of informational type meetings. There's a lot of reasons behind that. But any kiddo involved in one of those projects is involved in that club. Horse and Pony's kind of the same way. You know, if you're involved in the Horse and Pony project, you're automatically in a Horse and Pony club. But many of our clubs are just kind of general. We call them geographical clubs. Although since COVID happened, that's been an interesting piece of the puzzle, because many of our clubs that are geographical in nature now meet at the fairgrounds in Richmond, because the schools are still running under some stipulations and some things, you know, related to COVID and disease transmission and those sorts of things.
Okay.
But we've got lots of clubs that are just general clubs that are for anybody. So regardless of, you know, whether they participate in beef as a project, or they're participating in foods as a project, or something, you know, in between.
Isn't
there.
that the same thing?
You know, as I was pulling those out, I thought, well, those could be a little bit related, couldn't they?
Talk about, there are kids who live in the city who are interested in animals, but they can't keep chickens. They're not allowed because of where they live. They can't keep beef because of where they live. Talk about how potential 4-Hers like that are able to still participate and learn in something like a walking project. I don't have a horse, but I am interested in this equestrian thing.
Right.
Is that a possibility?
It is in Horse and Pony. So horse and pony, dairy cattle, and alpacas and llamas can actually be leased.
Whoa. Alpacas and llamas can be leased.
They can. So we currently do not have a llama and alpaca project in Wayne County because we haven't had a need for that, but there's some rumblings happening, and we may have alpacas and llamas in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
It would be interesting to say the least.
Yes. Oh, the Llama and Alpaca Show at the Indiana State Fair. If you've never seen that, you're missing out. They do costume classes, and they are hilarious. I've seen llamas in tutus and top hats. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. You got to get it. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you got to get it here.
Got to make it happen.
I got to get visuals of that.
Got to make it happen. But those animals can actually be leased. And so it's possible that we've got lots of different connections within those projects where we can, you know, have a youth get in contact with an adult volunteer who works with those kinds of animals and say, hey, you guys work this out, but let's figure out a lease agreement where you can show this animal for you know, the the 2024 program year. We also have a Livestock Ambassador program, which is a youth-driven program. Our barn superintendents and myself work together to select a handful of youth from each species who are kind of identified as experts within that species. And those youth those youth are utilized then through their leadership skills and their knowledge of the project. And when we have a family call who say, hey, we're getting rabbits. We've never had a rabbit in our lives. What do? We say, here's the name and number of a youth who can mentor, your third or fourth grader, and we connect them and make the magic happen. So
wow.
there's ways where if a child isn't interested in something, where 9 times out of 10 we can figure out a way to get them involved.
Talk about how parents, kids can connect with you so that they can get more specific information about pricing, what they can do, what they can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can always email us, and our email addresses are available on our website, which is purdue.edu/extension/Wayne. So that's a little bit of a mouthful, but they can find all of our contact information there. It's also available on our Facebook page, which is Wayne County 4-H Richmond, Indiana. We want to remind them Richmond, Indiana, because a lot of times they end up calling Wayne County, Michigan, which is Detroit, and they love talking to our folks, but it gets a little confusing.
I imagine. Yeah, there are other WCTVs out there, so we get phone calls for those too.
It gets really interesting. We're like, we don't think you have who you think you have. But they can also visit us. Our office is located on the north side of the Coleman Center on the Wayne County Fairgrounds. A lot of times, things can just be better explained and better answered either over the phone or in person. And they can, of course, give us a call during our business hours any time as well.
You mentioned COVID and some of the issues that it has created. A lot of people see themselves as being completely on the other side of the pandemic. They didn't want any parts of it when it was going on. They really don't want any parts of it 2 or 3 years later.
Right.
But it sounds like you all are still dealing with some of the effects of that. Talk about how that has actually affected 4-H, and I assume it has affected the numbers of kids that are participating at this point.
It has. So in 2019, 2020, so before the pandemic began, we had a campaign for 1,000 4-H members in Wayne County. We wanted to be 1,000 members strong. Yep. So we were pushing about 920 that year. After the pandemic, we saw numbers get as low as about 680. So now we are growing back out of that. So we're pushing for 800 this year, and really excited about that number. So we're seeing things go back up again. But I think there's still the pandemic kind of forced us to reevaluate some things, right? And I think families, in some cases had to cut back a little bit, whether that was because of the financial burden, the time burden, or just, the ability to kind of do so during the pandemic. Sure. And so we're still seeing kind of that transition happen. Back the other direction. And as I mentioned, it has been a little bit of a hardship as far as finding places, especially for our larger clubs to meet, because, schools just have to be extra careful. Sure. And so, especially in the winter months, when RSV and flu and COVID and all of those numbers are high, they have to be really, really mindful of inviting, large groups of people in. So we've struggled a little bit with that, but they're all hurdles that are figure-outable, as I like to say. Yep. And we pave a way. That's what 4-H people do. We pave a way, we figure it out.
Talk a little bit about 4-H itself. What are the 4-H's? What do kids learn from this? If the federal government is behind this, they must believe that it is positive for kids to be involved in it. Talk about what you've seen, and I know that you've been involved in this almost all your life, I think.
Yeah, yep, I bleed green. So I was a little kid that grew up in mini 4-H, did my 10 years in 4-H, and then before I became an extension educator, I was judging 4-H fairs all over the state. So I've never been out of it. But it's an amazing program that empowers youth. In so many different ways, through life skill development, learning things like time management and responsibility, and that if you've got that animal who's, relying on you for breakfast and supper, every single day, that is a commitment that you have to follow through. So just so many, and then just watching youth grow up and find their confidence and kind of their niche, and sort of figuring out through programs, in our program that they may have a career option. I think oftentimes of one young man who was involved in so many of our STEM activities. He actually drove into the fairgrounds, I think it was his last year or his next to last year, for his small engines project in a casket on wheels. You might remember that,
I
Eric.
remember the
You
casket
might
on
remember
wheels.
that,
I
yes.
do.
And he has gone on to be a pilot. He is a commercial airlines pilot now.
Really?
Yes. And so, just seeing those kinds of things come together and come to fruition, it's unlike anything. It's worth all the money and salary in the world.
You've talked about outreach. You've talked about trying to diversify the kids that are involved. This is something that I think in some ways, in some instances, can actually cross county. We think about 4-H Wayne County. It can cross county lines.
It sure does. We do a lot of, especially the extension system, the land grant system here in Indiana is divided into different areas. And so we're in Area 7, which is an 11 county area, and we do a lot of partnerships and activities together. We camp as a group, so when our youth go to camp from Wayne County, they're going to interact with youth from those 10 other counties. And it's the friendships and the relationships that you see develop out of those couple of days is really fun. And they remain friends on Snapchat, and they tell me all about all the different things that they've done together over the summer, and it's a lot of fun to see that. And camp is one of our area programs, and then we have Roundup and the Academies at Purdue, which are statewide programs that youth can participate in the summer and interact and meet youth from all over the state of Indiana.
What is the driving force behind the expansion of various programs? You mentioned the shooting sports and how that has expanded, the motor sports, how that has expanded. What's the driving force behind that? Is it kids locally saying, I want to do more, or is it something coming from the top down saying, we think will be a good program add for you?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I would say. One of the reasons we've been around now for over 120 years is because we've been able to remain relevant. And so I think meeting kids where they're at, identifying interests that youth today have, and finding educational routes to kind of meet them in those spaces has been super important and has been one of the reasons why we have been so successful.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're spending time talking about 4-H and the Wayne County 4-H Fair with Alicia Criswell, Sandy House. Sandy, you have been involved in 4-H and the fair for how long?
Forever. I mean, it could have been a 10-year. I was a 9-year 4-H member, so we were involved through that. And then I was the photographer there for 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know. And then the chairman now, so I think it's 24, 25 years that I've been the chairman of Wayne County.
Are most of the people in your committee also 4-H background, or are you finding people who are coming in who maybe didn't grow up with it, but they've decided to get their kids involved and they want to be as helpful as possible? Where are you getting committee members from?
I think we're a mix of, there are several that had 4-H kids and they want to give back. They know how important it is. And so I think we do have several that have had kids throughout 4-H. And then we just have some that are just good-hearted people that want to help out. So it's a little bit of both.
I want to talk to you a little bit about expansion, pressure to expand and get bigger with the fair, if that's a thing. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, talk a little bit more about 4-H, Wayne County 4-H Fair, as we continue with In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11.
At St. Vincent de Paul, we work tirelessly to help others help themselves. We work to give people the tools they need to escape the grip of poverty. Our furniture ministry provides clean and comfortable furniture for those going through major changes. We give tables, chairs, sofas, and beds to anyone who needs them. The Changing Lives Forever program pairs people with a mentor who will help them learn valuable skills to work their way out of poverty. Our commercial kitchen has the tools for people to learn how to cook healthy and delicious meals. To learn more information about St. Vincent de Paul, call or send us.
We all want to remain in our home, but sometimes obstacles in the environment stand in the way of our independence. Things like going up a few stairs can be insurmountable. Getting to the store can be complicated. Clearly hearing a speaker in order to be part of the conversation can be overwhelming. Everyday reading can be more stressful than relaxing. Even pouring coffee can turn into a hot mess when it is difficult to know how much liquid is in the cup. The Independent Living Center of Eastern Indiana is an information and resource center that empowers people with disabilities. Check us out and learn about what we offer to assist people who wish to remain independent and at home.
WCTV supports local entertainment. WCTV supports local information. WCTV supports our local students. WCTV needs your support to continue supporting our community, and it's easy to do. Become a member as an individual or family. Nonprofit and business memberships are also available with benefits including video production and program sponsorship. Membership donations are critical, and when deciding where your support dollars go, support an organization that serves the community you live in. Visit WCTV.info or call 765-973-8488.
Richmond Sanitary District curbside service in your neighborhood. Know the dings. Bag trash goes into your green rosy roller. Regular route drivers do not get out of their trucks to pick up bags and items left beside your green rosy roller. If you have larger items that do not fit in your green rosy roller, please call to schedule a special pickup, 765-983-7450. Clean, loose, unbagged recyclables go in your blue Ritchie roller. Plastic bottles and jugs, aluminum and steel cans, glass bottles and jars with lids removed. Newspaper, chipboard like cereal boxes and magazines should be placed on top of the blue Ritchie roller tied. Corrugated cardboard has the wavy layers. It must be clean, no pizza grease, folded and broken down to slide easily out of the container when picked up to be emptied by the truck. Questions on the curbside containers? Please call Debbie Tevis at 765-983-7456. Richmond Sanitary District. Our goal is to grow.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric, Executive Director of WCTV. Thank you very much for spending part of your time with us watching this particular In Focus. It is a topic that I very much have learned to enjoy through the years. I did not grow up in or around 4-H, didn't know a lot about it until I started my broadcast career. I have to say that one of the first live appearances that I did in radio a long time ago was actually down in the Owen County area. I had a chance to go down to the Owen County Fair, and my first interview was with a kid with a rabbit. And didn't know anything about rabbit, just the amount of information he was able to give me. And this was probably an 8 or 9-year-old talking about how much the rabbit eats, how he feeds him, how he takes care of him. It was actually impressive for me. And as I've had a chance to do this through the years, I have found the 4-H students to be incredibly impressive young people to talk with and incredibly dedicated about what they do. And I assume that comes from the learning and having to do, whether it is a walking project or not. And why don't you talk a little bit about that difference and how that works for kids?
So officially they're static and non-static projects, right? But it's so much more fun that they're walking and not
non-walking,
right?
Yes.
Although, some of those projects during the fair seem to grow legs and walk away. So You never know. But our walking projects we have 11 of those, different species, all the way from, beef cattle and dairy cattle and horse and pony to our goats and our chickens and rabbits. So some of our smaller animals then, and everything in
I've
between.
seen some of those rabbits.
They are
some
not
of those rabbits are not small animals.
You are not kidding.
Those things are,
They're massive.
I didn't know bunnies came that big.
Yes, they sure do. They come in all sizes, shapes, and colors. I've learned a lot about rabbits in my years.
Okay, it wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't just you. So those are our walking projects, our living, breathing projects. But then we've got about 60 non-walking projects.
And that's a number that has continued to grow and expand.
It has. And again, we tend to kind of work on those, edit those, add and subtract projects depending on, where youth are at, what they're interested in, what kinds of things, they're doing. So we try to meet them where they're at.
Parents think if it's a walking project, we have to have it here, we have to take care of it. That's not always the case. And you mentioned leasing and space. I think people, and we've talked about what the decisions that some people have had to make in terms of cutting back maybe because of the cost of something. We can't talk about a lot of cost here, but talk about what an average project might actually run a family, whether it's walking or non.
Right. And so, there are so many variables that come into play with that. So for the program year, so just to get enrolled in the program, we charge $10 for the year for our mini 4-Hers, so our kindergarten, first, and second graders, and $25 for the year for our 3rd through 12th graders. And that gets them started in as many projects as they want to participate in. From there, then, the cost is very much, at the discretion of each family. And, you can spend as little as probably $2 or $3 on a poster project. And I've seen some poster projects that you easily, the family probably easily spent $20 on. So, but I've also seen that $2 or $3 project be equally as successful as the $20 project. Okay. So that's one of the nice things too. There's a wide spectrum of what youth can do as far as, you don't have to be in one socioeconomic bracket or another.
You said you were involved in it, 9-year 4-H member. Some of your committee members are, some of them are not. As you all look at the fair as a whole, obviously you're thinking about the 4-Hers, but you're also thinking about the community and what will help bring the community in, because you have to be able to make money for the fair. How do you all make some of those decisions as you go through? This act will be good, this act won't. We don't want to have this person this year, but you're saying we saw somebody a couple of years ago that we think might work. How do you all go through that? And what is the pressure on you all to grow and expand the fair as potentially a way to make more money?
Unfortunately, you do have to look at it as a business side too. I mean, it's not what we like to think it as, but it is. I mean, you just have to. Some of the decisions are, is it going to educate someone? That's the projects I love to bring in the most, or introduce, like we brought in the fishing tank that was free. That wasn't free to us, that cost us a lot of money, but it was free for somebody. So if we can bring in things that for your $5 carload parking can get in, that we can bring a lot of free entertainment. We can bring hopefully something you can go do as a family. I heard several people go, my kids never fished before. So that's where it's important to us, is if we can do something like that. So we weigh that heavily on the decision of cost. There's just things out there we know we can't afford that we'd love to bring. But
is that some of the musical acts that are out there that some fairs have been using for a number of years to draw people in? Yeah,
and I just don't know that we have the facility to bring in the large acts. It was hard to get people to come inside to entertainment. So we kind of found out the smaller acts, local acts, bring in just as well. But we do the Bluegrass Day. We're trying to entertain all aspects and all ages that might want to come and listen. So every day something's different. And that's what we try to look at too, is it something different. We've brought in several Nashville singer-songwriters. So it's something that it makes my day when maybe you introduced a kid or even an adult to something that maybe they hadn't seen or heard, and then they go, wow, maybe I could do that. I didn't know. You know, like the statue guy, it's like, that's a profession I could do, you know, I mean, yeah. You know, so there's a lot of those things that, or just the engineering of our one-man band, all the engineering that goes into what he does. You know, I mean, there's all those aspects that you hope that people take out. Not only, I hope they have a good time, but I hope they walk away with some knowledge and some desire to get their families involved in the 4-H program so they too can grow as our 4-H families.
We've talked a lot about kids. There's an adult component to all of this. Who does that actually fall under? Is that more fair? Is that 4-H, the extension, Homemakers Extension? Talk about what that is, how that works into the fair, finds its space, and develops.
So the Extension Homemakers are a branch of our Health and Human Sciences program area under Purdue Extension. So that comes out of our office.
Okay.
And so those participants host an open class event that we kind of, when people inquire about it for the first time, we say it's kind of like 4-H for adults. And they have a number of projects, arts and crafts, foods, horticulture, fine arts projects that anybody from Wayne County can exhibit at the fair. So if you are an extension homemaker in Wayne County, it is free to exhibit. If you are a non-extension homemaker, it's $1 per exhibit. So very affordable option as well.
And what are their options for being able to do? I've seen them looking at green beans or something in the.
Yep, absolutely.
They work on that all year long to try to develop those recipes or make those.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
So they are. It's very similar in kind of the learning and the outcome piece as 4-H is.
Okay.
But the extension homemakers, and it's really kind of a neat concept. The extension homemakers actually were sort of born out of the need to educate at that time, the time that Extension Homemakers was born, women who were engaged, as stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home wives, helping husbands and raising families, and to get the information that they would need into their hands to be able to produce food, safely, to be able to can and preserve products safely. And so that's kind of where that program was born. And the Extension Homemaker Open Class is kind of where they've come since then.
Okay. You've mentioned Purdue a number of times in this conversation. Talk about where Purdue fits into all of this.
I always forget that that's a detail that people probably don't just know, right?
Sure.
It wasn't something that I knew prior to my, engagement in Extension. So
Okay.
each state has a land-grant university that is charged with extension endeavors within that state. So for us, our land-grant university in Indiana is Purdue University. And so everything that is extension related comes out of the College of Ag at Purdue University.
And how does that work with you all, and how is you all's office divided up to do that, the extension educators or whatever you all do? When it's not 4-H, what else is going on in that office?
Absolutely. So we like to say we're sort of the front door of the local university. So having Purdue University right there in Wayne County. So we have, besides myself, we have Jonathan Ferris, who's our Ag and Natural Resources educator. So Jonathan does a lot of home horticulture visits. He works with local farmers to help them, produce crops and increase yields and decrease pests and all kinds of things. He does a lot of work with pond management and forestry management. Wildlife management. So he's really engaged with sort of that audience of folks. Okay. And then we have Elisa Warland in our office. Elisa is our Health and Human Sciences and Community Development educator. So she wears two hats. She does a lot of...
And I'm sure she's happy about that.
Oh, she is. She is. She does a lot of work, with not only the Extension Homemakers, but helping local businesses and organizations organizations be more successful through digital avenues, through growth kind of mindsets. She does a lot of evaluation and surveys. She's always looking at data and helping, just sort of increase economic development in Wayne County and also the community development aspect.
You handle mainly 4-H. Is that the only thing that keeps you busy?
So that is the only thing officially that keeps me busy. But I think that there's a lot of folks who think that I kind of sit around and wait on the fair to roll around, right? And so I engage in a lot of different ways in the community with youth development. So right now I'm teaching teen mental health first aid with a group of students at Richmond High School. I've been engaging with every elementary school youth at Hagerstown Elementary during the month of October.
Wow.
So I am out and about and always doing things. I show up and a lot of kids go, "What do you have today?" Because I'm always pulling a wagon full of supplies to do something.
When you look at the fair, the business side of the fair, how do you find your sponsors? What are you looking for in terms of sponsors? And how do sponsors find you and talk to you all about what might even be possible for them?
Well, fortunately, here lately, the sponsors are finding us
That's
and
gotta be a
renewing.
good
Yeah,
thing.
I think they're seeing the value of this as a community event and how many youth that we're reaching and how many people are coming through our gates and what we're doing. So that's a great thing. We do have a website. We have a Facebook. My number's out there, email, and all those things. And we can hook you up with whatever. We can make it. The confusing thing is there's the sponsor for the fair events, and then there's the sponsor for the 4-H activity itself. So we always want to make sure that they're doing, which part they want to participate in. But of course, the fair is really reaching all the 4-H kids and everyone else too. So it's all intermingled. There is just a little bit of a difference, but.
When you look at what your group can do in this coming year and what you all have changed over the years in terms of marketing, talk about some of the things that you all have tried to add in terms of marketing the fair, not just here in Wayne County, but even trying to drag more people in, because it's about bodies through the fence. Mm-hmm. So what have you all been able to do from a marketing standpoint to make it easier for people in the region to find out about the fair when it's happening? Because the fair has changed times even in the last number of years. It was a little bit later in the summer. It's moved into being a regular June type event. So you've had to change and update. People use QR codes and things of that nature. What's your marketing look like now as opposed to maybe what it looked like even 3-4 years ago?
Actually, that probably is someone that we could really use, is someone that could work with the website. And Facebook, we cover that fairly well, I think, but the website, we struggle because we are all business owners and families and all those things, so we're stretched pretty far. So when it comes down to sitting down in the office to update that website, that is probably somewhere we still slack at. And I'll be first to admit that. I wish we could be better at that. And that would be awesome if somebody ever came on and would want to take that over. We did look into online ticketing last year, and we did have a QR code. So we are trying to catch up with the times. I think we're pretty good on that. One thing that we do is we go to the convention in Indianapolis every year. The Indiana Festival Guide is put on, and we advertise in there, so that does go throughout the state. But that convention is a lot of networking going on. And then there's the International Fairs and Festival, and we actually had the CEO of the International Fairs and Festivals came and visited our fair last year. So we're reaching out there to be, we're one of the fairs to come and check out. So that's exciting, that it's reaching far out there. It really is. So.
Talk about the amount of time, if you could, that your committee and committee members spend working on various pieces, parts of this. Are you all meeting monthly, weekly, bi-weekly? What do you do as you start the year and work your way through?
We try to meet once a month. We will probably take December off just because we are pretty much together. If there comes up something, I will email out. But usually just once a month is what we meet. But that's not to say that I don't meet with you personally if you're in charge of something. You know, I'm working on getting the vendor contracts out, so next week we'll meet with them and, you know, what was it that we need to change on this and get that going. So, but just really a once a month, but we're all working behind the scenes and putting those hours in. I actually attend the other 4-H meetings, some of those another time during the month. So there's a lot of on the phone and a lot of emails and those things to keep it going.
If somebody's looking to connect with you all, they're watching this and they're going, I didn't even know this was an option. It sounds interesting. Maybe I have that website development thing going on. How do they connect with you?
Just go to the Wayne County 4-H Fair website or get with the extension office. Everybody's got my number, I think. Everybody's like, your cell phone number's out there? I'm like, yeah, the only way you can get me. So we're usually running, but yeah, just you'll find us. Just Facebook, shoot us off a message. Yeah, we'd love to talk to anybody that's interested. I do several times have people maybe say, hey, I moved and my kids were involved and we're the grandparents now, and it's like, come on aboard. And so far they haven't showed up, but we'd be entertaining to, we'll find something for you. And like you said, it's not, maybe we meet once a month, but you don't have to come to every meeting.
Okay.
It's not like, okay, you got to attend 6 meetings or you're kicked off. It's just get your job done, show up at the fair where we need you, and that's when we need everybody.
Talk about when the fair is for 2024 so people can mark that on their calendars.
It's June 22nd through the 29th of 2024. So seems a little bit later, but it's still the the last full week in June is what it ends up being. And so, yeah, and the carnival doesn't start till Monday, like always.
But you've got that opening weekend
That
there. That's a
opening
lot of fun.
weekend,
The frog jumping. And
yeah, and that's the Little Miss contest.
Yes.
And there's free ice cream on that Sunday. Yeah. So we won't be on Father's Day this weekend, I don't think. So that'll be a little different. We have the bluegrass. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. And they got to remember that the animals do go home. So as the fair gets into its last days, the animals aren't there. I mean, They get tired. The kids get tired. They want to go home and sleep in their own stalls, you know. So that's one thing that I wish, you know, we could change that to some extent, but that's not fair to any of them. So but there's always still lots going on. The track events ramp up throughout the week too. So.
Talk a little bit about that. What is it like trying to put those together? Do you change them much, or do the track events normally stay the same year after year after year?
There's some of our staple events that we always keep. You always got to have the tractor pulls, a couple of those, and the demo derby. And the rodeo has become a favorite of our area. That's for the money and the time, and it's a great show. It's and there again, we're reaching the best in the world in those divisions. I mean, that first year I thought, I'm going to call you out on this. How can that be the world champion? And how can that be the number 2 guy? And, you know, and I was like, looked it up, and it's like, sure enough, they're right here in Wayne County in our own fairgrounds. So, you know, they bring a great show. They're a local stockyards that brings it. And so that's something I'm proud of, that we're able to use Poor Jack Amusements right here in Wayne County. 3 Bar J, they're technically Randolph County, but they have a business in Wayne County.
Close enough for government work.
Yeah, you know, so that's, you know, a lot of the things, if we can use somebody here locally and put that money back into this economy, not only are you seeing it at the fair, but it's outreaching throughout. So it's putting people to work in the county too.
Okay. Alicia, I want to kind of wrap up with you, give you a chance once again to talk about what the deadlines are that kids need to know and the parents need to be aware of. We're heading to the holiday season. Does that matter for people? And what happens if they miss the deadline? Somebody moves into the area in February after you've already gone through the January thing. Talk a little bit about how kids, families get involved.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, this is kind of that preferred window of enrollment period, that October 1st through January 15th window. We'd love to have them, the sooner the better, because that way they don't miss out on anything. Right. But if we have a family move into the area or they just realize that they missed a deadline, we try never to turn a kid away. that wants to participate with us. There's just so much value in the program, and we want everybody to be involved. So we will absolutely take youth after that January 15th deadline. It's just that they may have to do a little catch up with us. As far as the winter break is coming up for many of our youth. It's a great time to get involved and to get started on things. So I would encourage anybody who's interested or would like to learn more. Now's a perfect time. Give us a call, stop by the office, shoot us an email, and we'd be glad to give them or help them with any information or make any connections that they need to get them started.
Once again, provide information of how somebody can actually connect with you and get involved in what they need to know as they reach out and connect.
Yeah, so they are looking for the Purdue Extension Wayne County office. So a lot of people say, I need to get a hold of the 4-H office. Well, you need to get a hold of the Purdue Extension Wayne County office. That's where 4-H is held. And so we can be reached by phone, in person at the office, via email, via our website, via our Facebook. So however they come to us, we are happy to have them.
All right. Alicia, Criswell, Sandy House, appreciate the time. I am already looking forward to a week at the fairground, so hopefully we can spend a whole lot of time out there.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
As we head out of this week's In Focus, here's a few ideas of what you might be able to take advantage of in the area. The Hometown Holiday Craft and Vendor event is being presented by the Centerville Athletic Boosters at Centerville High School Sunday, November 26th from 10 to 5. For more information on this ticketed event, call 765-855-3481, extension 2000. The Senior Adult Ministry November meeting at First United Methodist Church, 318 National Road West, is happening on Tuesday, November 28th at 6 p.m. For more information, call 765-962-4357. The Eastern Indiana Gym and Geological Society are having their Christmas Bazaar December 2nd and 3rd from 11 to 7 on the 2nd, from 11 to 6 on the 3rd. That's at 5199 National Road West. Don't forget the Rosemary Weigel Frostbite 5K is happening on December 2nd. Registration at 3:45. The race begins at 5:30. And also on that December 2nd, it's the final ride for Richmond Rose Petals. It's the Santa Ride. So get out and definitely have a great time. Richmond Rose Petals has been biking around the area for a number of months, and this is their last one of the year. Thank you very much for watching this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. See replays of this program beginning tonight and throughout the weekend. You can also find it on our Facebook page. Thanks for watching In Focus. As always, I wish you well.